Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is in custody in New York following his dramatic capture in a U.S. military operation in Caracas on Saturday. President Donald Trump says the people of Venezuela are now free of Maduro's dictatorship. Venezuela's vice president has demanded the U.S. return Maduro, calling him the rightful president. Maduro and his wife, who was also captured, were brought to the Stewart Air Force Base several hours ago. The couple face federal charges of narcoterrorism and cocaine importation. Maduro was taken to a detention center escorted by drug enforcement officers. Rina Shah is a geopolitical strategist and a former senior congressional advisor to the Republican Party, and she joins us now also from D.C. So, Patty, welcome to the program. Donald Trump said he would end foreign wars, not start them. I wonder, can the president, in your view, still say that he's staying true to that pledge, as this is maybe more of a judicial intervention rather than an invasion, per se?
Well, good evening. It's felt like a week in Washington rather than one day since we learned this news of Maduro's capture. For a lot of us around here, when we hear the word capture of a foreign leader, we think of horrific images of Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi. It's kind of unbelievable to see the state of Maduro and his wife as they've now hit U.S. soil and are being kept there, seemingly in decent spirits for having been yanked out of bed by American forces in the middle of the night. Look, I'll just say this. I think a lot of Americans tonight, whether right or left, are a little bit high off of our military might. Certainly, this operation was conducted with great precision and with no casualties, it seems. Just incredibly just shocking that it happened and it's over and we are where we are right now. But in getting to the political reality here about the president's base, President Trump's ardent supporters of the Make America Great Again movement, their original mantra was America first. No more endless foreign wars or entanglements that bleed our resources dry. But it was a swift strike in Venezuela that captured Maduro and pledging to, quote unquote, run the country that has kind of flipped that script on its head for many of his supporters, who are now framing it as a pragmatic power play for oil security and curbing migration.
So there are obviously the supporters in the party, as you point out, and as Patty also reported. But I just wonder how much of a problem you think it is politically for Donald Trump that he is going against some perhaps minority voices, but also some loud voices in his MAGA base that really want the U.S. to stay out of these foreign military conflicts.
Well, those supporters of President Trump who are cheering Maduro's capture are reconciling this military action that took place without any congressional authorization, I must add. They're reconciling it by calling it a quick hit rather than a quagmire. They're saying seizing Venezuela's vast oil reserves helps slash gas prices at home. They also see it as disrupting drug cartels and socialist regimes that fuel border chaos. They're selling it. Well, they're buying what Trump is selling, and what he's selling is this as winning big for America, not nation building. That's really key here. And as a former Republican senior advisor in the pre-Trump era on Capitol Hill, I can already see the cracks forming here. Voices like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene are blasting this as a betrayal. They're warning that it's exactly the overseas adventurism that MAGA voted to put an end to. She's even accused Trump of chasing regime change for oil, or even hidden motives that are tied to allies like Israel, declaring that MAGA was wrong. I mean, this is a stinging rebuke from her. But what I think pundits aren't highlighting enough here stateside is that this is splintering the America First faction from core MAGA. That's what I see. Isolationists like Senator Rand Paul are fearing that it divides the base, with polls showing some 70% of Americans opposing military action, echoing the movement's roots in rejecting foreign meddling, and now at risk of fracturing over Venezuela's temptations here. And those temptations, just to be clear, as we heard in the president's own words today, are oil, oil, oil. But I'm aligned with thinkers like the very famous former world chess champ and Russian dissident Garry Kasparov. I'd like to caution that this really reeks of old school sphere of influence deals. I mean, if Trump's horse trading with Putin swaps Ukraine for Venezuela, then it's not isolationism. It's imperial carving that really weakens our global alliances and invites blowback from China or Russia.
And in terms of the domestic blowback, it seems to me like there are similarities with the bombing of Iran some time ago. There was a lot of pushback from within the Republican Party, but it was over in 12 days and things went back to normal in that case. Do you think that given that the Trump administration is allowing Delcy Rodriguez to take over Venezuela, that the president will be able to keep things relatively stable in Venezuela and say, look, this is not a regime change war. We're just, getting rid of a bad guy?
Look, I think domestically, this action energizes Trump's loyalists by painting him as the decisive strongman against that Biden-era weakness that they love to keep talking about. But objectively speaking, bypassing Congress really tests our constitutional guardrails and potentially greenlighting unchecked presidential power for even riskier moves down the line. That's what I'm most concerned about here. But to your question on the domestic front, what this does is open the door for, again, the uncertain. We really just don't know how this is going to play out. The coming days are going to be the tell-all. We have to just hurry up and wait, because we did hear President Trump today say temporarily when he talked about running the country. And I just want to take a moment and just say, as a political insider of some 2 decades here in Washington, D.C., I was struck by that phrase. I mean, it stopped me in my tracks as I was sort of listening to this press conference while doing other things. I thought, okay, typical presser, they're going to tell us what he's done. It'll be good. But I was shocked to hear the phrase run the country, and especially with no real timeline given, no end date in sight, and again, no congressional authorization. So I think this move of having somebody they support that is Venezuelan is a very good move for the short term. But let's shift to the geopolitical for a moment. I mean, geopolitically, ousting Maduro really hits a node in the Russia-Iran axis, which MAGA hails as a freedom boost. But yet, as former governor of Ohio, John Kasich might argue, the precedent here is dicey. I mean, does this embolden adversaries to justify grabs in Taiwan or elsewhere, essentially turning America first into America alone? I mean, that's the question we have to ask here. But also, bottom line, while Trump supporters, square this with short-term gains like cheap energy and border relief, the unspoken risk is just deeper entanglement. Things like Latin American resentment, military overstretch, or even a MAGA civil war if America First purists decide to bolt on Trump. And that could leave Trump exposed on his foundational campaign promise.
Yeah, a lot of people will be watching to see what happens in the days ahead. Rina Shah, geopolitical strategist, we appreciate that valuable analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.